Welcome to the SMT Podcast. We're a few minutes late, actually, so I do apologize for that. So we're not on schedule, but always on time with the SMT Podcast. June 20th, 2022. I guess we'll do like an official welcome to the Juneteenth holiday. And I don't know, everything was closed, right? Like all the banks and stuff, all the federal and government stuff. But, I felt it was a good day to do a podcast, man. So I brought on Dennis. There's a couple things we're going to discuss. We might get a moose sighting later. But Dennis, man, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out. We're glad to have you, sir.
Thank you for always having me.
Yeah, man. And let's see if we got some people in the chat. Do say your hellos as you come in, and make sure you do like the video and share it so others can kind of know what's going on. And I don't know about the notification squad. I think sometimes YouTube, I don't know if it like whatever the process is for notifications, sometimes they go through, sometimes they don't. If you ever want a backup notification system, follow us on Twitter. I went ahead and put that link for my Twitter handle in the description box. So then you guys can go ahead and follow me there and then know about everything that's going on with the channel. I link all the videos. I share a lot of stuff, images. It's a good account to follow, I think, if you're into mobile network tech and cellular stuff and phones and all that. So yeah, give
Hey,
it a shot.
Sneed.
Yeah.
Before we get too deep into the main topics, I want to bring up something controversial and spicy right off the rip.
Ooh, let's do it.
Let's talk about your FaceTime call that you had with me to invite me on this show and that experience real quick.
Yeah.
So let me set the stage for everyone here. Sneed lives in a beautiful house, but this beautiful house is served by a very sad site. And this very sad site used to be a Sprint site that T-Mobile just gutted. It's sad now. But good news. The good workers at T-Mobile are doing upgrades and bringing the glorious 5G ultra capacity to our boy Sneed. And he has it now. It's a joyous day. All the little elves are singing in joy as he gets high-speed connectivity. Right, Sneed? It's very fast and reliable, right?
It is very fast. Yes.
I didn't hear you say it was reliable, though.
I said it's very fast.
So, Sneed FaceTimed me today, and my instant response, not knowing, is Sneed, you're running at 1 FPS and breaking up. I can't hear you well. And then he told me that's the T-Mobile 5G UC. He could not make a FaceTime call with all that bandwidth. It wasn't until he connected to his glorious AT&T fiber that the call cleared up, and I got to see the beautiful man's face in full crisp HD, and his audio noticeably got better.
Yeah, and I could tell you it was pretty disappointing, Dennis, to know that the tower site had just been upgraded. It's now live. It's reaching the house, and it couldn't do a FaceTime video call.
And for perspective, what kind of speed are you seeing when you run a speed test?
It was like 225 down.
And what's the up?
Maybe 4 megabits up.
That's still plenty to do a FaceTime call. Oh, and before anybody chimes in and says, well, he was inside, he wasn't. He was outside on his porch.
Yeah. I guess I have to wait. I'll wait to see if it gets better optimized. Maybe they can tune it a little bit better. I think maybe it was just turned on like within the last day or so. So we'll see. We'll try again next week, Dennis. What do you think?
Sounds good, man. I'm always open to random FaceTime calls from you.
Hey, appreciate it, TK. Thanks for coming through. RF Waves is in the house. PA Speed Testing Adventures is here. Who else we got? Raj is in the house. I saw a bunch of good people. Aaron P. John is in the house. Yeah, Barry's in the house. Brent, Big Rubes, Keemon, Manny, Zero Cool, Ron, and David. You guys are the best, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see if it gets optimized. Absolutely. Big Term in the house. Yeah, and so hopefully that site gets better, and then we got to test Dish. I got to get a phone. I'm still trying to order one.
Yeah, and PA speed testing. Before we got into the main topics of the show, we were talking about a FaceTime call behind the scenes that Sneed made on his freshly upgraded site and how it did not perform like you thought it would for having so much speed.
Yeah, I believe it, TK. Being on the ultra wideband connection is really the only way to go. You guys got a lot of people in Vegas, trying to get on the network all at the same time. So being on a 5G device with the ultra wideband is the way to go. or on CBRS. That helps a lot too. Yeah, tough sledding now in some of these cities, Dennis. The capacity sorely needed.
Well, while we're waiting on the moose sighting, can we talk about the T-Mobile standalone 5G network progress while we're waiting?
Yeah, so I just got off the phone with the bearded dragon, and he is in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the standalone 5G, the voice over NR is live there, Dennis. And Pete called me, and he called me on my Verizon line, my Google Pixel 6 Pro. He called me from his Google Pixel 6 Pro. He was able to confirm the connection. I think maybe he uses Signal Check Pro, or he went into the programming menu and he saw that it was connected to standalone N71 over that voice call. So voice over NR confirmed. And this is great news, Dennis. Very different from the 5G you see at my home. His call sounded phenomenal. It was a great sounding call. So on my end, to me it sounded very loud, like boombastic kind of loud, like volume was terrific. It sounded like he was in an open room, and the tone was good. It wasn't cutting out. I didn't really hear any issues at any point. It was like a 5 or 6 minute call. It was really good. I was so happy with the outcome of that call. Um, so I don't know. Me and Pete got to talking about it. The bearded dragon mentioned that he could see that the voice over NR could be an issue in some places, depending on tower sites, right? So
Pittsburgh.
like how far certain sites may be handing off while mobility, like all those different things. So we start talking about all the different factors that could go into it. But dude, when he called me, it sounded terrific, Dennis. I was thrilled to know that this could actually be good. Voice over NR might be a good upgrade for T-Mobile customers.
I don't know, man. Pittsburgh is not one of those instances. I remember, I think I had, was it, did I have, who did I have on the best phone plans? There was someone I had on that was an expert at 5G voice calling, and I placed a standalone 5G call at that time. And because it's been live here in Pittsburgh for a minute, Sneed. 5G standalone over at Band 71, or excuse me, NR 71. That's been a thing for
Are you
like,
seeing it over the N41 also?
no, just N71.
Yeah, so then that makes it like official beta, I suppose, over
But it's been
N71.
like that for like a year, and it's not good.
Hmm.
I literally have calls fail or just outright drop or fail to receive voicemails whenever it's trying to do standalone 5G calling.
Interesting. Jar Cohen's asking about 5G standalone coming to Philly. I would expect that to be one of the first markets, like the first dozen or so. A, because it's a major market. B, because it was one of the first like T-Mobile N41 cities. Like when they launched the whole 5G UC thing, it was it was Philly. And they were aggregating like 60 megahertz of N41 with like 40 megahertz of LAA and all this, and it was really fast. They gave it good backhaul. It was great. Says the T-Mobile voice over NR runs over N41. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that was one more thing I wanted to mention. Totally forgot about this. Okay. Zero Cool just reminded me of this. The Bearded Dragon told me the trouble that he was finding was that the N71 and the N41 was cutting in and out. So his phone was frequently switching channels even when he wasn't changing sites. Right? So you would think, okay, well, I'm handing off from one site to another, I'm losing the mid band, I'm getting on the low band. The Bearded Dragon was saying that the phone was starting to, like, the battery was draining from that switching. So I'm wondering if maybe he started a call on voice over NR, maybe it dropped or something, and it cuts in and out from time to time. I think though, what we're probably going to be seeing are the growing pains of this voice over NR thing. Now, do I want to be one of the guinea pigs, Dennis, of
No.
these? No, I mean, especially if it gets down to the point where it's like calls are dropping. It's one thing for like the sound to not be great, maybe it sounds robotic at times or something like that. But like if it's dropping calls, we have a problem. Then for sure I don't want to be on voice over NR.
So I'm gonna say a joke, but it's actually got a kernel of truth to it. At this point, I look at T-Mobile as the beta network,
The
and
beta
the
network.
well, yeah, the reason I say that is because T-Mobile always likes to claim to be first to insert X thing, right? So they were first to 5G. They were, first to deploying a ton of like mid-band spectrum, and they're always like reaching these first milestones, right? But every single time along the way, there's always growing pains and issues as if it's a beta product that they're kind of just testing and kind of working it through. And I mean, that comes to the territory of being first, right? You have to chart uncharted lands. I get that. But I really wish T Mobile would just slow their brakes, take a moment, do a lab test, maybe do a couple market tests of different topography. And then once they formulate a game plan, go from there when it comes to upgrading and really just refine the process. Because I find that every time T-Mobile does an upgrade, it's the same song and dance for like a year. It's going to be really bad. And then they finally figure out whatever the problems are, work out the bugs, whether it be firmware, whether it be because of Nokia gear, whatever. They finally work it out. And then something new and shiny in the tech space happens. And they go back and then screw the pooch on whatever the upgrade was that they did. Sneed, does that sound about like what T-Mobile's experience is when it comes to upgrades for you?
Uh I'm thinking about the original like low band 5G launch. It was kind of like that. The early N41, the backhaul was pretty bad. I mean, those are some of the low lights in recent history. I mean, how far back do you want me to go back?
I mean, we can go back to 2013 and just go from there. Think about
Okay,
when
so like
LTE was.
yeah, I was going to say like the original LTE piece. I mean, even their HSPA launch, right? So like transitioning away from like 3G and stuff. I mean, it was rough, man. It was tough sledding. One of the issues, just generally speaking, was tower density, right? The spacing was really far, and they didn't have much low band. Like they had the 5 megahertz of band 12. That was pretty much it, Dennis.
Yeah, they got
So,
that in 2015.
right. So like low band was tough. They're trying to build their network on a mid band footprint, but those frequencies don't travel as far. So you can't put a tower every 4 miles and have a good footprint, right? Like you're gonna have bad handoffs, you're gonna have dead spots. I mean, some of the dead spots I remember from T-Mobile were massive. I'm talking like mile stretches, even in like suburban areas. You know, so that was an ongoing issue. But like when it came to new technology implementation, I always felt like they were slightly behind. But it was always relative to like their financial situation, Dennis. You know what I mean? But now they're a big company,
Yeah,
and now they have a lot of assets.
but they're still acting like a small company. Like they're a big company on paper, but everything they're doing, like I said this in one of the spaces when we were talking to Keon, maybe it was a Google Meet, but like I asked Keon the question of, do you think it's finally time for T-Mobile to reevaluate their network strategy? Because right now they're still doing the same thing they've been doing. Do it at the most affordable rate possible, at the lowest cost possible, and kind of go from there. They keep kicking the can down the road for the things that matter most. Like, I'm not expecting T-Mobile to say build out 50% fiber footprint to all their cell sites, but I would love to start seeing them build out their own fiber infrastructure for, like, say, the top 15 PEAs. Like, get your own fiber, owner's economics, so you can actually provide high quality backhaul to serve those customers with ample amount of bandwidth to support both your growing fixed wireless home internet business as well as your growing data needs for mobile consumers as they utilize the perks that come from 5G ultra capacity. They're not doing that. They are still really just tiptoeing around and ignoring the ultimate fact that they need to start splitting sites like Verizon did. They need to start adding small cells. They need to fill in coverage gaps if they want to have true reliability, um, whether it be for voice calling, texting, or just data usage. I mean, 5G standalone is awesome. It gives you so much control from your network from a management standpoint, but you can't you can't fix bad tower handoffs without adding in more cell sites. Like what? Standalone 5G might add what, 10% extra range speed, if
Yeah, I
that.
mean, theoretically, I think the 15% better range maybe.
But like,
But here's the thing.
yeah.
So, like, take for example, you're in a fringe area where the signal is usable but not great. It should make that connection more stable and reliable, right? It's not gonna be a game changing like, oh my goodness, now the connection is awesome in this spot. No, it's just gonna become acceptable as opposed to troublesome. Like that's what that 10 to 15% might be. I think the other piece is the spectral efficiency too, squeezing a little bit more capacity out of it because of that efficiency. Yeah, but it's not gonna replace a cell split, like you said, Dennis.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, man. All the things that we like, all the things that we focus on and enjoy, the cellular excellence, right? The mobile network excellence. T-Mobile's got to be looking at their situation and saying everything's going well. We're the fastest growing carrier. We're selling the crap out of our lines. We've got a ton of organic growth. We had the acquisition of Sprint. Got these incredible assets. We did well with the two C-band auctions. We've got millimeter wave when we're ready. I mean, maybe they're looking at it like things are working well. Let's not disrupt the momentum. Let's just keep it going. Let's market everything. Let's sell everything. Let's do these Un-carrier moves. Let's promote these things. Let's just keep doing it, and they just don't want to rock the boat. Because if they were to change their network approach and philosophy and methodology, you're talking about adding anywhere between 20 to 35% increase in capex. Like that would be the difference. Like if they're spending, 10, 11, 12 billion this year, they would have to move up to like 14 or 15 billion because they haven't really done small cells for the last few years. I mean, what I mean,
So
I've seen like one N41 small cell, Dennis, in the entire city of Cleveland. They should not be that hard to find.
so I understand your rationale of don't break what ain't broken, so to speak. But to play devil's advocate with you, what does T-Mobile do when they reach into the Verizon wall, where there is no more growth pool, where it's just saturated and stagnant?
Well, I think
Well,
they're going to continue to try to keep turning over those rocks, flipping over those logs and looking for more customers.
there's only two ways that T-Mobile can become more profitable. Either they get more paying customers, that's number one, or they reduce operational costs. And one of them is better off in the long term, just period, reducing the operation costs, owner's economics. Right now, T-Mobile's probably got some pretty good fiber deals for leasing fiber in different places. They probably worked out like 10-year deals or whatever. But what do when they have to renegotiate those deals? And now the cost to get these like higher, like 10 gig lines has just exploded exponentially in cost, right?
I mean,
Like
it's
getting a
either well, in like the long-term horizon, their end game has to be their own fiber. Otherwise, they're looking to sell.
right. And I'm saying they're still not starting on that. Like they literally should be whatever T-Mobile's top 10 PEAs is, wherever they have the absolute most market share, they should be going in and investing in their own fiber. Just the top 10. Just the start. Get your own fiber in the top 10 PAs. And then if they do that, that gives them more opportunities for revenue growth as well now, because now in places where they have fiber, if they wanted to be aggressive and do something like they did in New York, they could start offering a fiber product home internet, sell excess capacity or excess fiber strands to, say, medium to small size businesses.
Yeah, but Dennis, they still have corporate goals too. They want to do share buybacks.
Yeah, but share buybacks are a waste of money.
I understand your stance on that, Dennis. We've discussed it. I just know that these are things that they have talked about at the investor conferences. So I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just telling you, I'm kind of just reporting what like CEO Mike Sievert has said, and the CFO, like these are the bean counters. Like the CEO says, "Look, we're looking to do some of these share buybacks here in the next few years. How do we make this work?" Well, you need free cash flow. And which carrier has the lowest cash flow?
T-Mobile.
Right. So I'm thinking to myself, well, how are you going to do share buybacks? And if you think about it, their stock continues to increase. It's not going down, it's going up. So when are you going to do your stock buybacks, your share buybacks? You're going to do it when your stock is 50% higher than it is today or 20% higher than it is today? You want to do it as soon as possible. I'm assuming they're probably going to do their share buybacks at some point in 2023. And I don't know how many shares it is. I don't know how many shares outstanding they have. I'm
So
just saying
listen,
that that's one of their corporate goals. And then the other corporate goal is raising ARPU, which you've kind of alluded to. How do you make more money? And it's become more profitable and generate more revenue.
what I'm getting at, and you're just really emphasizing for me, is that T-Mobile's thinking short term. Nothing about their network strategy is thinking long term. And the only way I would support a stock buyback by T-Mobile, the company, is if they were doing it to break away from the grips of Deutsche Telekom.
Well, they
If
can't. The Deutsche Telekom's the majority shareholder.
I'm aware, but I'm saying that's the only way I would support it. If T-Mobile was to try to eke out a deal where they become independent, kind of like how Verizon broke away from Vodafone
Well, they bought out Vodafone.
or bought up. Didn't Verizon break away from somebody in
Yeah,
history?
Vodafone. They bought out their ownership.
Yeah, so they bought
Yeah.
out Vodafone, right?
Yeah,
That's
but
what I
that
said.
put them in debt, dude. Like they still have, like, if you look at their total debt, that's still on their books,
I'm
which
aware,
that's
but
from 2000, dude. That was 22 years ago.
I'm aware, but the reason I would want them to do that is because I feel like T-Mobile USA's biggest problem is that a lot of the things that they need to do, I feel like Deutsche Telekom isn't letting them do. Like, I guarantee you, Deutsche Telekom is the one that's not letting T-Mobile take on debt to do a massive fiber build out, for example, because they want to keep the debt low, keep it sexy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I've always speculated that they like keeping the debt low because they wanna be an easy acquisition.
Exactly.
It's much easier to sell your company if you have no debt. That's why I feel like Sprint felt blessed to get off of that. Like Masa and SoftBank came up at a Sprint so quick. They were like, "Oh my god, somebody actually wants to buy us? Okay." But like the assets were good and T-Mobile is going to have trouble competing for C-band and it all kind of made sense. And
Can I ask you?
everybody just wanted bits and pieces of Sprint. They didn't want the Sprint business. With the Sprint business came the debt.
Can I ask you a question? By the way, on that note,
Yeah.
do you think T-Mobile actually got a good deal on the N41, or do you think that's junk spectrum that, and by buying Sprint, it wasn't even worth it?
Oh man, so what are we 2 years from the merger, right?
Yeah.
Now it's all like revisionist history, 2020 vision in hindsight. This was the best move for the current version of T-Mobile. Like they couldn't go into the C-band auction knowing that AT&T and Verizon were going to eat up all that spectrum. You know what I mean? So it was the only move they could have made. Like if they didn't get the Sprint acquisition, they were looking for another merger where they were going to be the B side. They would have probably gone hyper aggressive, a merger with Comcast or Charter.
Let me ask you a very hot, controversial question. Do you think the US market today, as far as mobile telecommunications goes, would have been better had T-Mobile been acquired by a Comcast or someone?
No, no, it wouldn't have been better. I think we got the best option. We got Sprint out of there because under their current ownership group or under the SoftBank ownership group, they weren't trying. They made a lot of bad decisions. They had a bad CEO. They had a bad owner. It's irrelevant that it's a Japanese run company or whatever in SoftBank. But the problem is, Masa must have came into this deal thinking, okay, I'm going to be making billions of dollars in this business, not realizing that Verizon and AT&T are king. And he couldn't even do better than T-Mobile. So you had this uncarrier thing going on with John Ledger and Magenta. You had Verizon with seemingly endless amounts of subscribers because their coverage was far superior for so long. And AT&T was the cable company, or they were the TV company and the phone company. Like, everybody just, they thought of AT&T and Verizon for all their connectivity needs. And then whoever hated Verizon and AT&T so much were like, we got to try T-Mobile. We got to do something. Like, it was just desperation. I mean, look, John Legere went from 11% market share to 17, and I thought that was a small miracle, right? Meanwhile, Sprint was losing, right? T-Mobile was taking Sprint customers. So yeah, I think the best thing that ever happened was the merger, because it made T-Mobile a scrappy, upstart into what I consider to be a much more legitimate carrier, whom Verizon and AT&T now have to respond to. They they didn't respond before, and now they do.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It makes them more legitimate and it makes them more of a carrier, that's for sure. But uh
Big shout out to John. Thanks for the super chat. He said, hit the like for the hashtag Telco Poppy. Yeah, appreciate you, John. Thank you, man.
I almost wish though, I mean, having the two scrappy upstarters though, I think was good for the market as a whole. Like if we
Yeah, but
look at
Dennis,
the
their
amount of
networks weren't going anywhere, man.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then AT&T and Verizon, you could argue maybe Verizon would have kept up with their network excellence because that was their precedence, right? Like, there's a history, there's a pedigree. Verizon has had a great network for a long time. Would they have kept on keeping on? Probably. I mean, it's like in their DNA. Like, they weren't going to just stop caring about the network, but the pricing would have been outrageous. I don't think we would have gotten the Disney bundle. I don't think we would have gotten the True Unlimited back, back in like 2017 or whatever. Like, a lot of those things only happened because of T-Mobile and Sprint and the merger and, home internet and like all these things. It's a culmination of things, right? I look at it in the totality is, what has the marketplace been like in the last 3 years? And to me, these last couple of years have been some of the most competitive years in wireless in a long time. They really have. You got 5G home, you got fixed wireless access helping some people. You got wireless plans. The pricing has not increased until recently. We've had bundles with freaking entertainment perks. Some people are really enjoying those things, Dennis. It's been pretty nice, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. I almost feel like that if a real internet provider bought T-Mobile, someone that had real internet infrastructure, whether that be Charter, whether that be
You know what you
Comcast.
would have got, Dennis? You would have got your small cells, 100%.
Yeah, not only would I got my small cells, but like honestly, very hot take. Let's just say Comcast bought them specifically. If Comcast bought T-Mobile, every single Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspot would pretty much be turned over into millimeter wave overnight. I feel like Comcast would have millimeter wave like literally everywhere.
Really think so, huh?
I think so because they already had the pulls up. All the permitting that was there was already done. All they'd have to do at that point is just swap out the Wi-Fi hotspots for millimeter wave, and bada bing, bada boom. You just got blankets and blankets of millimeter wave that Verizon can only have dreams about.
That may be true, but I think in totality, the marketplace is better than it was before. A dying Sprint, a flailing Sprint, an unresponsive AT&T, an unresponsive Verizon. Just that version of wireless just wasn't good, man.
Well, on the topic of flailing companies, how about we touch on your title? Verizon's flailing. What's that about?
All right, so really quick before we do that one, Dennis, I wanted to get to the AT&T Verizon up against big tech. Is that okay if we do that one first?
Absolutely.
And then we'll see if we can get Moose up in here. So yeah, let's go ahead, and I'm gonna copy this link. I want to share it with you guys, and hopefully I can remember to put it in the show notes. So for those of you that are watching this hashtag replay crew, you'll be able to get it as well. But it's in the live chat right now. For those that are here, hashtag 2LiveCrew. I got that shared with you guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a share screen, and we'll look at this together. And the title is AT&T Verizon urge feds to tax big tech. All right, Dennis, where do you think this is going, man? Without us getting into too much detail.
I think it's going to go something along the lines of the carriers want to be able to charge big tech for accessing their networks or something like that, and that things like yeah, I think they want to be able to charge Google and and stuff like that for access to the network.
Nice. We'll see. Big shout out to Caesar. Thank you for the super chat. Hippo character going really fast on his chair, propelling the chair across the room. Thanks for the super sticker. Caesar, appreciate all your support and thanks for all that you do, buddy. Thank you. All right, let's do this. Freaking big tech. What is this about here? Two of the nation's largest telco providers in AT&T and Verizon urging lawmakers to levy fees against big tech in order to finance bridges across the digital divide in the U.S. In the new efforts, AT&T and Verizon are running up against opposition from a range of players, including a trade association composed of both network operators and big internet companies like Google and Twitter. The developments reflect growing momentum globally around the notion of getting big tech companies like Netflix, Apple, and Amazon to help pay for the networks that their services run on top of. However, the topic is fraught with complexities, and it is unlikely that any major changes will happen quickly, given political gridlock in the U.S. and elsewhere. What do you think of that, Dennis?
I think that this is a way for the telecom providers to basically get paid out more money for their lower tier offerings, like how Comcast has Internet Essentials and Verizon has their thing. I think this is their way of trying to get a little bit more money back in their pockets.
See, I see it a little bit more direct. I see it more like, oh, hey, we're Verizon. We're spending like $50 billion in the next 3 years. Hey, we're AT&T. We're spending $40 billion in the next 3 years, or 2 years or whatever their CapEx is going to be for wireless. Since your services all run on our networks, we would like you to help subsidize that spending, right? So basically, our customers are spending 30% of the time on Netflix. Oh, hello, Netflix. We would like you to pay for parts of our network build. Apple, Amazon, right? Apple TV, Amazon Prime, like all this stuff. Yeah, those are all video platforms, right? Consuming multimedia on the Verizon and AT&T networks, and they are completely reaching here. Dude, there's no way companies like Netflix, Apple, and Amazon want to pay for cellular networks. Dennis,
Well,
do you see this any realm of the universe this could happen?
can it happen with our government? Maybe.
What?
Should, in all sincerity, maybe. Should it happen? No. It's it's asinine. It's ridiculous because essentially the way this boils down to is telecom companies have one job: provide a service to you, internet service. After that, that's where their job ends. And basically what AT&T and Verizon are saying here is we don't like having to spend the money to develop our services and network to support the internet. You tech companies, please pay us so that way we can just make more profit. That's how it reads to me. And
Here's
also,
some Go
one
ahead,
more
Dennis.
thing before you go.
Mm.
A bigger problem with this issue is that it totally disregards and ignores the nature of how the internet is. Like one service that's popular today might not be popular into the future. Take for example stuff like MySpace or even Facebook, right? Like these things like basically died. Who's to say that that doesn't happen in Netflix? I mean, look at what happened to Netflix's stock after they lost a whole bunch of content and everything else that is happening. Things
Yeah.
like internet, however, are very static. It is something that you can't live without, and they're going to be just fine making money whenever they build out to it. So I think this is a bunch of tomfoolery, and that telecom companies like you said, are reaching and just trying to increase their profit margins in another way. They're triple dipping on their revenue streams.
Yeah, and I doubt they would use that money to build the networks bigger, faster. They would just pocket that money. They're not going to be like, "Oh, okay, well, we're planning on spending CapEx at 18 billion this year. All right, we were able to pluck about 20% more out of big tech. Let's go ahead and put that into the network. Oh, no way. That's going to go into corporate pockets, right? That's going to executive bonuses. That's going to shareholders. That would never see the light of day to actually go into the network, right? So
I
I totally
agree. And
agree.
there's one thing I want to touch on real fast. Guys, try to keep the section civil. No politics talk, please.
Yeah. So this here's some details from this. The filing went to the FCC. AT&T and Verizon argue that the money from the broader internet economy is needed to help prop up the Universal Service Fund. The FCC instituted the USF in 1997 to help fund the construction of broadband networks in rural and unserved areas of the country and to help low-income Americans afford telco services. But the primary sources of funding for the USF are network operators themselves, and current projections show that the funding mechanism for the USF won't last much longer. So I think the fear here is they're going to try to say, well, we've been able to increase our coverage footprints, offer more broadband in more places like rural America and places that are underserved. In order to continue to do that, we're going to need more funding, and we can get it from these places from big tech. Verizon went on to say, it's time to expand the USF contributions base to the broader internet economy. AT&T too urged regulators to expand the universal service contributor base to include the most significant enterprises operating within the broader internet economy. So AT&T is basically saying, "Hello Google, hello Twitter, hello Facebook," right? And
Hello,
Verizon is basically
father.
saying the same thing. Yeah, hello Netflix, hello HBO Max, and all these other, you know,
You didn't
media
get my
industry
joke.
company.
You didn't.
What's that?
So you didn't get my joke.
Oh, what did you say, Dennis? Repeat it.
I said hello, father, because
Hel
hello, mother, hello, father. you know. but look, let's jokes aside, let's look at history for a moment, okay? Let's rewind the clock and
America,
focus on
Dennis. We got America right here on the screen.
well, let's focus on Pennsylvania for a second, okay? I'm going to tell you a fun story about Pennsylvania. We have this fund. It's called the 911 recovery fee, and it's a fee that's levied against every single voice number in the state of Pennsylvania. And its purpose was to keep people connected with like landlines, essentially. However, back in like 1995 or something like that, we took money from that fund to pay Verizon to deploy fiber across the entirety of the state of Pennsylvania. Verizon did not meet their deadlines, which was something like 2008, and we actually pushed it back to 2015. And they just still didn't meet their deadlines and pocketed the money. No fiber to be found. That's what happened to the money when we gave it to them directly for specific deployment. They built out in places that they were going to build out anyway, which were profitable cities and suburbs like Pittsburgh and like Philly. And they totally disregarded and ignored anything that even had the breath or smell of rural. And that is exactly what would happen here if we increase the USF contribution. We might see them expand maybe another 5% in geographical footprint, but I will bet you my salary for a year that those are also markets and places that the carriers would have went to anyway to build out their services to. Especially if we start talking about things like fixed wireless, which we know darn well companies like Verizon would probably leverage to try to meet the definition of broadband and all that stuff, because they pulled the same stunt back with LTE, and they've been pulling the same stunt over here in Pennsylvania when they failed to meet their fiber agreements. They talked about how well LTE is available and how LTE is considered internet, yada 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 bullcrap. These companies don't need extra money from the USF fund, and if anything, it should be more retroactive where they build first and then get paid, not get paid first. But that's just my stance.
So
Steve,
that would be more like the FirstNet structure.
yeah, more like the FirstNet structure.
All right, here are some other items here. This one, I think we're going to start seeing some examples of where this might kind of manifest itself. It says you're choosing certain online services to contribute to the USF and not others, risk skewing the online marketplace and harming competition. A trade association statement declared internet streaming communications technology companies, both large and small. So like trying to pick on like Netflix and Microsoft and Google, kind of defeating the purpose, because then there becomes winners and losers. Those that are able to avoid having to pay into this kind of like USF contribution. Some other things mentioned here. It says assessing bias revenues would lower the USF contribution factor to less than 4%. And if the commission fails to act, the factor could reach 40% in the foreseeable future. So people are already starting to look at this and say, well, what are the loopholes? And isn't this going to become discriminatory? No doubt, Dennis, there would be some winners and losers in this. And some companies would be able to avoid it, and some companies would be heavy. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll just say this: if I was a Microsoft and this somehow got passed because of AT&T and Verizon, you want to know what I would do?
What would you do?
I would literally just start charging companies like AT&T and Verizon specifically the difference in cost. So while they might get the money from me, they'd be the ones paying for it.
Dang. So T-Mobile would be the beneficiary.
And T-Mobile with them. Any telecom or ISP, I would charge whatever the cost is. If Windows is $100 a license and the cost is say an extra $10, well, for you guys it's $110 a license. What are you gonna do about it? You can't live without Windows. Good luck.
So what do you think, Dennis? This thing's got any legs, or is it just kind of like a story or whatever?
Like I said, the sad truth of the matter is I could absolutely see a setting where that passes.
Sheesh, man.
And I wish that wasn't the case. But I could see it happening. I mean, dude, I never thought I would see the day where net neutrality got repealed. And that happened.
It did. It did. What year was that, Dennis?
2015. No.
Was it
2000.
15?
No. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I was in college. Hold on.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit before that, wasn't it?
No, it got repealed when I was in college. So it was after Trump got elected.
16,
So
17?
2017.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, let's go ahead and link the next story. It's in the live chat for you guys if you want to follow along. Dennis, you're about to be happy, sir. This always makes or puts a smile on your face when we get stories like this. Charter awarded $50 million in Kentucky broadband program. What do you say to that, Dennis?
I say that is a good thing because it probably means that they're going to be forced to now build out to rural counties in the state.
How familiar are you with like the Charter company when it comes to like the fiber build? Like, is it something you follow? Is it something that, like say for example, PA has? Like, I know, I know Comcast is a big player in PA, but like, because those are traditional cable ISPs, Dennis. Are you following their actual fiber builds though?
I follow all the carriers. I'm a part of every single one of their subreddits, like r/Cox, r/Spectrum. I'm a part of all of them, and I do
Uh-huh.
follow them.
Okay.
But I am most on the pulse when it comes to Comcast because Comcast is the one that I interact with the most in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
It serves your region and it serves most of the people in the state, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Or at the very least, I should rephrase this. I'm more familiar with companies that are in Pennsylvania. So that'd be Comcast, Armstrong, Blue Devil, Blue Ridge, anything that is a PA ISP, I know like the back of my hand. When you start getting outside of Pennsylvania, it becomes less vaguely watched because there's literally like 16 different regional providers in
Oh,
Pennsylvania
wow.
alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, man. Ryan says that state needs broadband badly. Let's
Oh, I'm
see.
aware.
Yeah, it says here the Commonwealth of Kentucky announced $89 million in funding through the state's Better Internet program to cover some of the costs of bringing high-speed broadband to rural areas of the state. More than half of the funding, $50 million, will go to Charter Communications, which was awarded the largest amount of funding in the announcement. Dennis, do you feel confident that Charter is going to follow through with this and do it in a timely fashion?
Um, Based off their track record, I know this is
Right.
ironic considering cable, but yeah, I feel confident that they'll do it.
Is there a precedent of them taking on similar funding and programs and completing them within a good time frame?
Yeah, I would say ever since the acquisition and merger, Spectrum's like a whole new company when it comes to them winning bids. They're very aggressive for bids from the government, and I would say about half of anywhere they've expanded to has come from like a cooperative, like partial government funded, partial them spending. So
So this might actually work out because the way I'm looking at this money is there's 89 million. Charter's going to take 50 million to build. That means 11 other local companies, electric companies, local network operators, they're going to be splitting the other half. So and that's I think those are the kind of like the suspect, right? Like, how long will it take them? First of all, do they have the contracts? Do they have the manpower, the labor, the know-how, the freaking testicular fortitude to actually like do this? Because Dennis, this can be a daunting task to cover stretches of miles and miles of miles of fiber is not easy to do if you don't have a history or experience doing it, you know? So like you look at what AT&T does is they contract the biggest and best teams. They're a national fiber provider, right? So that's going to be a lot harder for a small rural regional player versus a company like Charter in my experience.
Yeah, my concern is less about whether or not Charter can build it out, because I know darn well they can. My concern is what Charter will charge once they start offering service.
Okay, so couldn't be built into the terms of these dollars.
It could be, but it won't be.
Okay, well here's the other piece of this. Charter is going to contribute additional funding of its own toward the $118 million project, which will expand to high-speed internet to 18,353 unserved households and businesses in 13 Kentucky counties. Now, because Charter is going to be putting their own money in, I think you're right, Dennis. They're going to be charging whatever they want. So if there are regional providers that have DSL there, I would expect Charter to come in like $80 a month.
I mean,
You
I
know,
think they'll.
70, maybe 60 on the entry plan. I don't know.
This is what I see happening, because this is the typical cable playbook. They'll come in with some new customer promos, and what they'll do is steal all the customers away from that existing DSL provider.
And what happens in a year, Dennis?
And after a year or two, the prices will then explode. And what that does, but Sneed, here's the double-edged kicker. By them doing that, it sucks all the money away from that DSL provider. So now they don't even have the funds to upgrade even if they wanted to, because they steal all the revenue away. So
I'm looking
they're
for
going to be
some details.
they're going to
about
be
each
a
year.
monopoly. They're going to be a monopoly in those areas, just like Armstrong Cable's a monopoly in a lot of parts of PA. They're going to be in a monopoly anywhere they expand. Guaranteed.
So you guys heard it first from Dennis. Phase 1, come in with aggressive promotions and take all the customers. Phase 2, explode the pricing after a year or two. And then phase 3, just full-blown monopoly because nobody wants to go back to DSL.
Yep.
Wouldn't they be wiser to award these dollars to 2 or 3 companies within the same region?
It would make sense, but stop talking about making logical decisions, Sneed.
I would literally tell, like, say, for example, in this instance, Charter, say, oh, hey, here you go. You can have some of these dollars to do it. Now we have to match you up with a competitor who's also going to build there, forcing them to compete in pricing and also comparable technology, right? So they would have to compete at like $50 a month or whatever for the gigabit speed tier because there are 2 companies offering the same technological services within the same price range.
Sneed,
Give
you
or
want to know
take
what would be even
5%.
smarter?
What?
What would be even smarter is, instead of allowing Charter to actually own the infrastructure afterwards, you work with Charter to lay the fiber down so that the state owns it, and then the state can then lease off that fiber access to whoever wants to hook up to that main backbone and be the last mile provider.
So you think Charter would be into that?
I don't think Charter would be into that, but I'm saying that's the smarter decision.
Yeah, I don't even consider that to be realistic. They would be stupid to accept those terms. But yeah, I mean, it's a thought. It's an idea.
It depends how much
How
money
bad
the
they want to
state's
get in
willing.
there.
Well, no, I was going to say it depends how much money the state wants to pay.
Yeah, fact.
Because if the state pays enough that Charter profits regardless, then I could see Charter doing it, because honestly, these places that Charter is going to build out to, they probably weren't interested in building out to anyway in the begin with. So it could work. Oh well, it's still good news. I'm happy for my brothers down in Kentucky. I hope you get decent internet from Charter, and that hopefully they don't wreck you as far as pricing. Maybe Fixed Wireless can come down there and be a competitor.
All right, let's see this next story. I just linked it down in the live chat so you guys can check it out there. I'm going to also put it up on the screen so everybody can follow along who's here. And this is just kind of a follow-up. Let's put a bow on this, right? Second Indiana statewide fiber network announced. This actually was announced last week. All right, so we just talked about Kentucky. Let's look at Indiana. Dennis, these are flyover states, right?
Yep.
Everybody loves New York's, LA's, Florida's, just California in general, Texas, right? These big time populated places. But we have people that live in the flyover states. Like, I know it's not exciting to talk about Ohio and Michigan, and it's not exciting to talk about Indiana, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. But like, we're starting to see some fiber, Dennis. It's actually happening. And one of the things I'm seeing, Dennis, it's repeatedly going to the infrastructure based companies of utilities. We're seeing more and more electric telephone co ops. Have you noticed this, Dennis?
Yes, it's almost like it makes the most sense to allow the electric companies to run the fiber along the same poles that they have access to already.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at this story from Telecompetitor. I went ahead and linked it. Indiana is positioned to be well connected with the second announcement this month of a statewide fiber network consortium. The newest entrant, Accord Telecommunications Collaborative, owned by 21 electric and telephone co op service providers, covering 75% of the state's landmass. We're talking about 20,000 miles of fiber, 40,000 miles of electric lines. Announcements about partnerships with other providers are expected to be made in the coming weeks. The emphasis will be on using assets from its members rather than leasing or purchasing fiber from others. What do you think about that approach, Dennis? They're talking about getting service to 300,000 homes and businesses in Indiana.
I think this makes a socialist dentist very happy, and I approve of this approach.
I feel like this one is using the noodle the most, leveraging multiple companies, multiple entities. In collaboration, you can achieve more, right? So you
Yes,
get more reach, you get partnerships.
this
I feel like the state is more likely to get fully covered and upgraded with these types of efforts.
and this also goes back to the whole thing that I talked about with like redundant infrastructure for, but not in like the sake of having redundancy for like a reliability standpoint, but kind of useless. Like, why do you need Verizon, Fios, and Frontier that both run their own fiber when they could both just connect into the one fiber strand to the house? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this approach of relying on multiple people to get it done, it makes a lot of sense from a cost standpoint. And I'm very optimistic for Indiana, and I hope that this project goes well because having this state-ran co-op that's a nonprofit and with their incentives makes a lot of sense. And if private companies still want to come in and compete against that anyway,
Go
then it's
ahead.
going to be a net win for the consumer.
Yeah, and how about all the jobs it'll create for actually completing, the entire project? Right? Aren't
Right.
they going to be hiring locals?
Yeah, you have to.
Right.
You're going to need technicians to splice the fibers and stuff. So yeah, it's going to create a lot of organic jobs. And honestly, this goes back to owners' economics as well. That fiber is going to be an asset that just matures with value in time. Like that's something they could easily get a return on investment on in many different ways. And also, we haven't even talked about what this does for the state's economy. I mean,
Oh, major. Yeah.
broadband access makes a huge difference in a on a local level from an economic standpoint, because now there's going to be companies that are able to actually sell, say for example, on Etsy or eBay when they otherwise might not have been able to, and they just completely open up their consumer base to not only people within the US but internationally as well. um it just does a lot of good. I'm so proud of Indiana for taking a smart approach to this.
It's going to reduce operational cost. It's going to probably bring some efficiencies into play. The state's going to probably mostly get covered. And I know like Indianapolis is considered to be like a tech hub of the Midwest, but now it doesn't just have to be Indianapolis. Now you're looking at surrounding cities and other counties that can be ultra competitive within the job market, remote work, and I think being innovative with a lot of different manufacturing processes, automation. Like, you don't have to be in Silicon Valley to be innovative anymore. It just, you can do it elsewhere. It's like you got to look at the country and all of the different states like a blank canvas. You could do so much in so many different places. It just needs the investment. It needs the concept, the imagination, creativity, and problem solving. This Indiana is solving a problem, Dennis, with this, right? Why haven't more states thought of this? Why haven't they leveraged this? Because I feel like Indiana's onto something here.
Do you want the answer?
I do.
Lobbyists.
They're keeping this type of thing out, is
Yes.
what you're saying.
I mean, look at your home state of Ohio that
They don't
banned.
want municipal fiber here.
Yeah, but real quick, I looked up one of the co-ops that are in that band. Um, it it's called Sci Fiber, South Central Indiana Fiber, Sci Fiber, and their
Okay.
pricing is actually very reasonable. Uh, $55 for 50 meg, 65 for 100, 75 for 500 symmetrical, or $85 for a gig, and that doesn't include any equipment rentals or anything like that. As far as if you want a router, but I still think that's reasonable pricing. $85 for a gig isn't horrible.
So you think would be willing to pay those prices and be happy to get the fiber?
Oh, 100%. I mean, dude, cable charges 55 when you're not on a promo for 50 meg right now. 50 meg by 10.
That's a standard pricing.
Yeah, I'd say so. For most cable operators when you're not on a promo. Yeah. So this is
Hey.
this is very cable-esque in pricing. In fact, better than cable when you consider the fact that these aren't promotional prices. That's just the price. I mean, Comcast for a gig, if I remember correctly, when you're not on a promo, I think it's like 105. And Sci-Fi is coming in at 85 for symmetrical. And then Verizon, if you don't have any promotional discounts for their gig fiber, is actually $100 now, so you believe it or not.
Gig fiber, $100.
Yeah, that's what Verizon charges before you get your auto pay discount, which brings it down to 90.
It brings it to 90, no promo, so you're probably up about 20-30% without a promo.
I mean, $100 is the no promo price, I believe. But I'm just saying, if you don't do auto pay and paperless billing to get that $10 discount, you're $15 more expensive than this.
Yeah, and Zero Cool's on to something here. He says, I think all electric companies need to run fiber nationwide. I think that's probably the only way you can even dream of going nationwide. It's got to be aerial, it's got to be up on these poles, and it would have to be a huge joint effort from all the utility companies.
Also, for anyone curious in the chat, I linked the residential speed tiers that I was looking at for one of the co-ops here in the chat for y'all.
Oh, nice, Dennis. Thank you.
But yeah, I am very, very impressed because sometimes with these co-ops, sometimes you get into like icky situations. Like
It gets messy, right, Dennis? It gets real muddy and stuff.
well, I was thinking like with Josh, like what he was paying for his speeds. Remember Josh, Blind Tech?
What was he paying? Wait, so his was through a co-op
Yeah, his is through a
situation?
co-op as well, and it's like super expensive for what the speed is.
But he was able to get the fiber, so that's one win, but the pricing's got to be fair, right?
Right. And I
Yeah.
would say this is fair pricing, especially when you consider how much more expensive it is to build out the rural compared to like city or suburb. I think this is very, very fair pricing.
See, that's the thing, man. You know, that you're talking about they're getting DSL right now and they're getting satellite, right? Like do we even know if these people where they're getting served even have cable?
They don't.
See what I'm saying? So like, you know, sometimes I think like in the case of Josh, like they put in fiber and they're like, "Hey, take it or leave it. It's $100 a month for, 300 symmetrical."
So I'm looking at another one. One thing I want to say is I'm proud of them for not having data caps. Another thing I want to say though is I'm looking at this one
But it's
called.
fiber. How could they dare?
I mean, AT&T did at one point.
On fiber?
Yes, at one point.
What in the world?
And so did CenturyLink at one point.
They're the worst.
But here, wait, Sneed. I'm putting this in the private chat because you need to put it on the screen because this one is an instance of what I mean by not so good. Well,
They're
it's
in the co-op, Dennis?
yes, it's 9-star. They're one of the co-op members. So, when I say not so good, it's both good and not so good at the same time. Let me elaborate. So, if you look on the screen here, 50 meg is 6250 if you scroll down. 6250 for 50 meg. Not unreasonably terrible, right? Especially when compared to like what HughesNet and stuff costs. But then look what they're charging for 150, $90. And then 500 is like 120. This is like Armstrong cable pricing. This is Armstrong cable pricing in a nutshell. Gig is 150 and then 2 gig is 250, 5 gig is 489.50 and 10 gig is $900.
Yeah, this is very overpriced. Most families are probably going to be in here.
150 I would say is the sweet spot.
Yeah, most families are going to be in here and they're probably going to just eat it up. They're going to say, my internet bill is going to be $90.
I mean, they're
and they're
gonna
gonna get
love
one.
it, but the reason why I'm saying this is a shame is because you can get legit 300 symmetrical from Fios for like $50.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is I think at $90, you should be getting gigabit symmetrical, no questions asked.
100%. In fact, I'm gonna go a little bit more extreme. I know people hate when I say this, but I'm of the opinion that gigabit internet, when you're a fiber provider, gig internet should be offered for 50. Hot take.
I mean,
Especially
it's yeah, that's there.
especially when we're talking about like all this XG-PON and stuff like that. Like, who cares about 10 gig internet, right? What I want to see, and I've talked about this before, is I want to see the rest of the people get to rise with the tides. So if we're gonna see the top end be able to offer 10 gig or 20 gig internet like AT&T is talking about, I would love to see the lowest speed offered be gig at like a reasonable price, like $50. That's my hot take, though. But you gave me something to do research on. Like when we're on the off of this stream, you best believe I'm going to be Google searching every single one of these co-ops and looking at their offers because that's the kind of weird stuff I do.
Well, if a majority of the co-op members are competitive enough, then it gives us more confidence that this could work out for the people of Indiana.
Well, one thing I will say is I'm glad their websites actually work and they're not broken like Hickory Telephone. Did I ever show you Hickory Telephone site?
No.
Oh my god, can I show
Bro,
you
you
that?
come up with these names, Hickory?
Y- I swear I told you about them. Can I please show you them real quick?
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. You're gonna
That is
cry.
crazy. They just come up with these names like it's freaking like it's a barnyard cable, you know?
All right, I'm sharing my screen.
Let's do this, Dennis. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, go ahead, Dennis. Lead the way.
So this is Hickory Telephone. They are a co-op and they are very rural. I want to start off by saying that their site is not secure. It's not HTTPS encrypted. Fun fact. But let's go ahead and click on this pretty internet thing. Let's see if it actually works. Oh, they updated the site a little bit. Okay, here we go. We get some plain text. Just plain old text. Now, Sneed, I want to ask you something. How do you think you would apply for a Hickory Telephone internet provider?
You could probably order it online.
Nope.
No?
Nope. You can't order it online.
So why do they have a website?
That's a great question, Sneed. Do you think you would call them at this number?
Sure.
Yeah, nope. You can't order it over the phone either.
Okay, so who do you go see to order this?
You have to fax them, Sneed.
Oh, stop it.
I swear to Christ. You have to fax them. You literally have to fax them a form with your social security number on it, mind you, by the way, on a non-encrypted site to get set up for their service. And no, they're not a scam. You have to
That's
fax
crazy.
them. You have to fax them.
So like when you move into these communities that are served by this company, your real estate agent has to be like, "Yo, I'm just letting you know right now, the home internet provider here, you got to fax them your order." Just letting you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. Dude, I haven't voluntarily sent a fax or received a fax in a couple of decades, man.
I just want to see if I can see the. It might make me download it. Hold on. I'll see. Contact us. I think if I remember correctly.
No emails, no nothing, really?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. If I remember correctly, this is because I was remember my friend that lived in that place that I got the Verizon Home Internet for. The
I'm trying to figure out this fax thing, dude. Who has a fax machine in their like okay, so anybody who owns and operates a fax machine today is probably a business owner, operator, manager who has been using it as a process of their business for a long time.
Barry says someone's sounding like a technology snob. No, Barry, faxing is long dead.
No, I mean, I honestly, I feel like if you have a website, you should be able to order through the website.
Yeah, but I sent you the thing um about my friend if you remember him in the private chat. This was one of the options that we were exploring, and if I remember the process, we called them during their hours to have one of their agents email us the form so that we could print it out, fill it out, scan it, and fax it to them.
So here's the thing. People like this, in this situation that are served by this company, they got to be dying and chomping at the bit to try to get fixed wireless access.
Well, it's either this company or a company called Blue Devil because they don't service many areas. Oh, by the way, I don't think I told you this, but you have to here, I'll zoom in on this here so you can see this.
That's crazy. You can't call and order service.
Wait.
I can't believe it.
Can you read the terms of service real quick? Because I want you to know this is their terms of service page. This is it. They don't even have a full terms of service page.
You're going to have to read it. It's kind of blur or whatever.
Well, basically, it's one paragraph. It's not even like a full terms of service. Like you can't scroll down or nothing. It just says terms of service apply, bundle rates, blah, 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 blah. And then requires a signed customer agreement, current rates subject to change, approved for credit required. And then basic installation of TV and high-speed internet is free with a 1-year contract. So here's the kicker. You have to sign a 1-year contract with them, and the price could still go up just like cable.
Yeah, it's rough, man. You could see fixed wireless succeeding against this company, right?
Well, it's fiber, so but considering how hard it is to get them, yes. I'm just still incredibly and profoundly impressed by the fact that in order to get them, you can't order it online or call them with the
See,
number.
the call seems to me like it would make the most sense. Like let's say you like they're on the phone, like the person who does like sets up scheduling and orders. Like let's say they're on the phone with a customer. You leave a message, they call you back in the order you left. Like, and I don't know how many people they're serving, but something tells me that these are small communities.
Oh, it's not a
where-
lot.
Yeah, so like they can get to you within the same day or the same afternoon, or even if you have two people making calls.
They literally might be servicing a total of at best 4,000 people max.
They might have a couple of new orders a month.
Maybe. That's generous.
And I'm thinking whoever has them has had them for a while or whatever.
But I just want you to notice one thing too. Look at the pricing. $91.99 if you just buy internet for 400 meg, and that's the fastest speed, by the way, that they offer on fiber. 400 meg.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy. Google Voice and OB200 adapter, then it's free.
Oh, by the way, did I tell you that the email client they use is webmail?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. All internet and packages include webmail with 25 whole megabits of web space. Need?
Thanks, Giuseppe. Also, big shout out to Barry. He says, "Can my horse get an internet connection?" Nice.
Oh man, but yeah.
Phenomenal,
So
man.
that's them. They're a real gem, let me tell you. And if you're always looking for more gems, Sneed, I got them for you. But the reason why I was saying I was genuinely impressed is because the websites for here, I'll share my screen again. I shouldn't have canceled, but here I'll just share the actual screen instead of the window. But the reason why I was saying I was impressed was because when you click on like I'll pull up another one here in a second, but like here's one of the co-ops, right? Like their website's clean. It actually like looks well, and you're not sharing it. Sorry.
Let's do this. There you go.
So this is one of the co-ops from Indiana. Notice how much cleaner the website is. It's not just all plain text, very easy to understand. The pricing is a little bit rough, but the price is for life. Look at this, $75 for 500 meg for life. That's a fair price. Very clean. No credit checks, right? Because the whole point of this is to be serving underserved communities, right? How can you require a credit check, right? This is all really nice stuff, all really pretty. And apparently they still offer DSL, which is weird for this one. But let's use another example of a bad company.
Well, how about this comment right here is pretty important, I think, Dennis. He says the problem is out in the country, most of the people are poor. The phone companies can't rip off the customers with high prices, so they won't spend the money for fiber.
Right. I agree. That's why I'm a big proponent of not just accessibility, but affordability. But let's take my favorite cable operator, and I'm saying that in the most sarcastic sense. Here's Blue Devil Cable, which they recently upgraded their speeds over the pandemic. How well can you see that, Sneed?
Let me get rid of the comment, and we'll see if that improves a little bit. All right, now I can see it. If you could just maybe zoom in a little to look at the pricing. There you go.
All right, so that's your pricing. However,
50 meg, $44.
it's not actually 44. That's the kicker, Sneed. If you buy just internet, you have to add on $10.
So at $54.
Yep, with a
Okay,
one
what's the
terabyte
100
cap,
meg then?
be 60.
Oh, so they want you to buy TV from them.
Yes,
So everything is up $10 if you get internet only.
yes.
What's the uplink speeds on these things?
Uh 50 by 3, 100 by 5, 200 by 5, 400 by 10.
And they do have gigabit speed.
No. They literally, I kid you not, Sneed, within the last 6 months, it used to be 50 meg was the fastest. They literally, within the last 6 months, finally got DOCSIS 3.0. Just 3.0.
Where's Toronto, Ohio?
Where do you see Toronto? They're in 2 spots, bro. They're in Wellsburg area. They're in Wellsburg, West Virginia, and Burgettstown. That's it. They serve 2 places. That's it. That is it. But
Oh, snap. Rolando says power outage in Hearn, Texas. How many stores are in Hearn, Texas?
look, the reason why this is my favorite version of a bad website is click here to view our new speeds. Let's see what happens, Sneed. Whoops, what's that? A broken link? Do you see that? Their links
Yeah.
are broken. So
Nobody's maintaining the website. Nobody's.
that's why I was happy when I saw the co-ops at least had good sites. Like, I wasn't being sarcastic with that. Which, on a side note,
It
by the
makes you
way,
feel like they're legitimate businesses, right?
yeah, which, on a side note, by the way, how about the fact that all their plans include a 1 terabyte cap? It's not even 1.2, it's 1 terabyte, and then you get charged 0.10 cents per gigabyte you go over.
0.10 cents?
Yeah, so 0.10, 10 cents per gig you go over the terabyte.
Terrible.
That is the company that my buddy left in favor of Verizon Fixed Wireless, and now you can see why he's super happy.
How has that worked out for him? How's the service?
Once I went over and like crimped him a Cat 6 cable, and we did what we had to do with getting like the port forwarding and everything turned on. It's been super reliable. It's been super good. It feels like a really good home internet experience. The latency can still be a little flaky here and there, but not nearly as bad as it was. He's happy with it. Tremendously happy with it. But it required some good, tender, loving care to make sure everything was like on point, though, with the settings, I mean.
Dennis, this was a tremendous show. We covered a lot of stuff. We discussed a lot of great things, stuff going on with home internet and fiber and wireless and all that. It was a great show. I really wanted to get to that Verizon story, but we can actually probably do it tomorrow, and then we could probably get Moose on, and there'll be more details, and we could discuss it a little bit more thoroughly. I wanted to keep the show around an hour just because I've got some things to do. But is there anything else for the good of the order before we let everybody go for the night?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is I want to thank everyone for tuning in, especially on the aftermath of a very busy holiday weekend. We always appreciate you guys for commenting and liking. For anyone that's new to the community, I heavily encourage that you support my good man Sneed here by subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you don't miss any of his uploads. He does daily uploads with tons of interesting news stories and very accurate and well articulated presented information. Also, if you're feeling like you want some more content to kill some time, I encourage everyone to check out the Best Phone Plans channel. That's where you can find me doing my podcast with my good co-host Stetson Doggett. We actually had a very good show fairly recently with Peter Adderton on, where Mr. Sneed himself was actually on the channel helping me ask some fantastic questions as we grilled Peter about Mobile X. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't done so already.
Nice. Excellent, Dennis. We love your show. A lot of the viewers on my channel, I see them all the time on yours watching your content. It's a great way to get more content. If you love your cellular network technologies, devices, internet, and also like with these new services. I mean, dude, think about it. Like cutting edge stuff happening both on the Best Phone Plans channel. as well as mine. So and it's awesome to see the flow between the two channels. So thanks for hanging out, Dennis. It was great having you. Big shout out to all the super chats, everybody who made donos to support, everybody who liked this video. Thank you guys. Do share it. Put it up on your social media platforms if you want to help us out. But I think we'll leave it at that. You guys are amazing. Hashtag Mod Squad, hashtag 2Live Crew, hashtag Replay Crew, hashtag Ravioli Gang, hashtag Save the Bear, hashtag Help the Bear. Dennis, give me a hashtag. What you got for me?
Hashtag Telco Poppy, hashtag Telco Jesus.
Good ones, Dennis. Amazing, man. All right, buddy. We out this piece.
Peace.